All right, we're here with Callie Turse. Callie's running for Cheyenne City Council in Ward 1. Welcome, Callie.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. I'm Brian Martin. I'm the managing editor here at the Wyoming Tribune Eagle.
I'm Bob Fecht. I'm with the Cheyenne Animal Shelter and
Oh,
on the
great.
editorial board.
Cool.
So
Well,
Callie,
nice to meet
again, welcome and thanks for running for City Council.
you.
Let's start with what specific issues or concerns caused you to run for the council this year?
Well, at first it started off as kind of a joke because I'm a Cheyenne native and there's always things that pop up in my mind. Well, that could be improved, or how could that be different? So I think just in general, one of the main things that has driven me is I'm a business owner myself, and I had to go through the rezoning process, and I work with the city every year to get relicensed. And so in the rezoning process, it was definitely a lot of hoops to jump through, and I thought it could be a lot more streamlined than it was. So that has been on my heart for a couple of years since I went through that process. And then I just really feel strongly that Cheyenne has a real opportunity to develop a strong food culture. Happy and healthy community is really important to me. I haven't really told anybody this up until this point, but it's time to let that out. But both my dad and my brother had both committed suicide, and they're both Cheyenne natives. So on a personal level, like community happiness and health is really important to me. I know Wyoming has the top number 3 highest suicide rate in the nation. And my way of thinking is, what really makes people happy? They feel comfortable in their environment. And what makes people feel comfortable in their environment? Aesthetics. And I know Cheyenne in certain areas are really lacking in aesthetics, and aesthetics being art. We have a really amazing art community here, and it's really starting to develop and thrive thanks to some organizations downtown, and the Art Walk and the DDA is putting on their artist space. And so I love the murals coming to downtown, but why does it have to just stay in downtown? I think art makes people feel comfortable, and it's an aesthetically pleasing avenue that we can go that's not like huge on a cost. It's not a huge cost. And food. So art and food are what really creates a strong community and culture. So I haven't really looked in depth at the ordinances, but I know through my own zoning process, it was a simple commercial to mixed use business zoning. It was costly and it was really like time consuming. So as a city council member, I would really like to focus on the ordinances that we have set in place to really support small businesses, especially like local restaurants, and maybe recruiting other foodies from outside of the area to come in and start their food business, have that as their passion, and know that Cheyenne is relatively a blank slate. I feel like it's somewhat of a monopoly. There's like one of everything. There's maybe 2 of some things. And I think that that's really important for our community to have more than one. I think it's getting big enough that we could have more than one juice bar. We could have more than one, or we could have a vegetarian restaurant. We could have those things. But I think what deters a lot of people from starting their businesses here are the ordinances set in place, and the process that it takes to get what you want. So
Can you just tell us for background what the business is and what you...
yeah, I own Creative Healing. It's over on 19th in between Maxwell, or Van Lennon and Maxwell if you're going on the one way. Hopefully you're going that direction. It's just catty corner from the breadbasket.
And to set that up, you had to go through the rezoning process. to
Did.
get started.
I did, and I found the space and it was totally perfect. And I was like, where do I sign? And then what really struck me was that he had several other renters prior to me wanting to rent the space, but they didn't want to go through the zoning process. So I committed and actually I did that.
May I? So have you looked at it close enough to have any idea how you would change the ordinance or how you would change the process? Because your concern there has been something that's been discussed for several years,
Mhm.
and that it can be very difficult. So
Mhm.
as a city council member, do you have an idea how you would change it?
You know, I haven't really gotten to take a in-depth look at the ordinances other than my own experience. And I'm kind of one of those people that just learns as I go, really because of my own time constraints. I'm a business owner. I'm a mother of two of young kids. I have a almost 8-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And I just took over a giant house on 17th and Maxwell that's been in my family for 3 generations. So I haven't looked at the in-depth ordinance, or I haven't looked in depth at the ordinances, but given the opportunity, I would absolutely do that. I'm a really intelligent person, so, and I would talk to the community about what they would see and other foodies around that would love to do A, B, or C, but have started the process and then they're like, oh, maybe not. So.
Kelly, can you talk to us about what qualifications you bring to the table that you feel would make help you to become a good council member?
Absolutely. I have been a massage therapist since I was 19. So this September, it'll be 12 years. So I've worked my entire adult life, growing up, basically, helping facilitate people's path to wellness. I know people through and through, and I have a really good knack for helping people feel comfortable, not scared to talk with people and like talk about real issues. And I'm extremely diplomatic. And I'm a small business owner, and Creative Healing has been open for it'll be 7 years in November. So I'm an entrepreneur and a business person, and I've always, just kept on trucking. So as a small business owner, you have to be a problem solver. So problems come up and money is short sometimes, but you just have to solve problems. So in my experience, just with my path, I would say I'm a pretty good problem solver, and just really determined to never give up. There's always other options, even if you don't see them, there's always other options that are around. So
what do you believe is the biggest challenge facing the city of Cheyenne? And after you've identified that biggest challenge in your mind, name 2 or 3 others.
How do you decide what to say is the biggest challenge? Well, I mean, as of yesterday, I would say one of the biggest challenges Wyoming faces, and I'm sure it's going to trickle down to Cheyenne because we are the capital city, is all of the budget cuts that Matt Mead just approved. So that one really struck deep to me because they cut a lot of health department funds, a lot of mental health funds, suicide prevention funds. So I would say just the general well-being of our community and how the city is going to help take care of the community from here on out. And that leads right into the budget issues. We got a 2.5% raise in non-uniformed city workers, but did the heads of all of the departments not get a raise? Did they get lowered? As a small business owner, you always look for ways to take care of your business. And if you're looking at Cheyenne as a business, then, geez, I mean, you don't dump the people that are running your business on the street. You kind of like take down from the top rather than take off from the bottom. So given the opportunity, I would really look at the priorities of the budget. And, you know, as a city council member, you don't make a ton of money. And I'm definitely not getting this obviously for the money. It's more of a public service. So finance, I mean, 7 to 9 years ago, a lot of other states had to do the same thing, like got huge budget cuts. But I just think there's so many more possibilities for Cheyenne. And when you take away, I don't know, there's just, that's a loaded question. When you take away health and like the resources for health, I mean, it makes the whole population suffer, really.
That probably leads into our next question, Kelly, which is if you would describe your vision for Cheyenne.
Well, I recently took a trip up to Billings, Montana. It's where my brother and sister live. And one of the things that I thought was so inspiring was that they had retail areas everywhere. And a lot of local retailers were around, a lot of corporate retailers were around, and we all know that Cheyenne's been really friendly to corporate retailers. But all of the facilities were really, really nice. Like all of the little squares, the shopping squares, really nice. So maybe taking some of the retail focus off of Delrange and looking at expanding it onto that I-25, I-80 corridor, or building on to where Walmart on the south side or the southeast side has already like kind of got their foot in the door, and building off of that, maybe making more town squares and focusing on aesthetics, the details. I think that when you put so much attention on specific areas, that all of the rest of the areas get neglected. So looking at the details, I mean, you think about coming off of I-80 onto the South Greeley Highway, and it's just like nothing. I mean, how much would it cost to put 4 or 5 aspen trees there and a bench, you know, or planting a few wildflowers? That can't cost very much, and that's a detail. So I'm really aesthetically oriented, so just looking at the details. And you know, coming in off of I-25 on Lincoln Way, that's even worse. And what if we could develop that area also, a little town square there with a grocery store? And everybody's been so focused on like bringing a Trader Joe's here. Well, there's a lot more grocery stores that are small and more natural oriented or organic, that isn't a Trader Joe's, that would, you know, potentially choose Cheyenne as a spot to expand into. So I just think taking the focus off of all of the areas that have been so contained and so like, oh, we have to focus so much and so hard on the downtown. And yes, we do. And I would totally support the efforts to beautify and like help facilitate more business and like livelihood in downtown. But there's so many other areas, and especially in Ward 1, that I think could have real potential.
Kelly, what do you think the community needs that it doesn't have, maybe in terms of amenities or really anything, but how would you make that happen as a member of the city council?
Well, I've never done it before, so I'm not really exactly sure how we would take that into and put it into a reality. But putting the dedication and focus that it would take to possibly bring a few more grocery stores into town, possibly put more local neighborhood parks into neighborhoods, into empty areas or empty lots, run down lots, condemned buildings, put it into like a small local neighborhood park. Spray parks, super simple to put in, concrete pad. The water doesn't have to run all the time. Turn the water on in May and the kid has to jump on a little sensor to get the water to go on. You know, as a mother of 2 younger girls, I feel like there's really nice parks in Cheyenne, but I just think that they could be better. And I don't know, as far as like a rec center goes, I don't know if I personally would use a rec center. We go to the Icon Center once a year, basically, for Opal's school night out. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what else. The aesthetics really bother me, and the food options really are lacking, in my opinion. I'm kind of a foodie. I lived in California when I was 19 to about almost 21, and it was Northern California, Bay Area, so obviously soaked in all of the food options, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And there was so much community, and you know, that's where the magic happens. You go out and you meet with your crew and you talk about what's going on, dream new dreams, like talk about plans. So I think that's really important. So
Kelly, you mentioned the downtown and said that there might be other things that are, you said it was important, but maybe not all the eggs in that basket. But if you would focus on downtown for a minute, there's a downtown core project or effort, beautification effort going on. There's the West Edge project.
Yeah.
What would, if you're on the council, what would be your priority in terms of fixing up the downtown?
Well, I do support the downtown core project, and the West Edge. I haven't seen those in detail, but as long as it didn't put too much financial strain on our community already, I would do my best to support the efforts going on down there. Definitely.
If there was some extra money, do you know which one you'd make the priority, downtown core or the West Edge?
I'm like, flip a coin? No. Well, it would be really nice to see the West Edge developed. Just have more options and expand outside of that, like straight downtown.
How do you feel about the use of taxpayer money for amenities like the Children's Museum?
You know, I think that it's nice that the general public gets to decide if they're going to take that on or not. Just having that option and that choice, if they're willing to fund the Children's Museum or not. I mean, at least they get an option. At least they get to voice their opinion.
Do you think it's appropriate for public money to go to a private project like that?
Do I think it's appropriate? I mean, if they worked hard enough to get it on a ballot and have exhausted every other option and are really committed to that cause, then yeah, I think that's appropriate. If that's where it gets to, then
you support the project?
I support the project, yeah. I definitely support the Children's Museum. My husband, I'm gonna call him out because I'm a little naive at times, and he's like, well, blah. He doesn't support it because of all the bars, the Pioneer Hotel and the Transitional Center. He's like, well, that's a little shady, but I support it because it would bring more life to downtown. I am all in favor of a children's museum, and I think that if you kind of put something with more life in. I know the Crown owners are really respectful. They're always cleaning their sidewalks, and kids aren't going to be downtown at 10 o'clock at night when things are getting hopping. So I don't necessarily see that as an issue.
How do you feel about development of the city-owned Belvoir Ranch? There's been a lot of talk lately about trying to open it up to some recreational opportunities, hiking, horse trails, those sort of things. Where would that fit on your priority list?
I would definitely support the development of the Belvoir Ranch. Absolutely. I had a podcast interview with Richard Johnson, and he asked me about the Belvoir Ranch, and I will be honest, I was like, what's that? What is that? I don't know. So obviously it's been a topic that's been coming more into my awareness, and it hasn't been in my awareness prior to that. So the more I learn about it, the better it sounds. But I have heard that there's some issues like railroad ties, and there's some definite cleanup issues. But again, it's like that focusing on detail. If they want to open it up, there might be an area that's under construction or under cleanup efforts. If it's something that the community wants, throw a cleanup day, sign some waivers. I think it could be a really great thing for our town, and it's a beautiful area. I've driven in that area. I think there's a road that connects Happy Jack to maybe I-80 or something. I don't know. I've been in that area, and it's really gorgeous, and having some hiking trails closer other than Beatavoo would be just super special for this town.
If you're elected to the council, what would be your budget or savings priorities? You talked a little bit about spending money on amenities and things like that, but how much should the council spend and on what, and then how much should the city be saving?
Well, I think that, like I said earlier, the cuts or the raises to the city and the non-uniform city employees, and then I'm not exactly sure if there's been any change to the heads of each department. I just don't know that. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But safety is a concern. The police chief, I know specifically the police department, the chief doesn't get paid nearly as much as if he were to get transferred to Minnesota. I think that's where he was trying to get a job. And I have several clients that are police officers, and they just basically call it a training ground for officers that get transferred to higher paying jobs. So I think that would definitely be a focus on reevaluating how much our police force and safety force gets paid. And you have to pay your employees well to retain them. I mean, as a business owner, you know that if you're not going to treat them well or pay them well, they're going to go somewhere else and get paid and treated better. So does the head of the Board of Public Utilities need to get paid the same amount as the police chief? I don't know. There seems to be a lot more liability as a police chief than the head of Board of Public Utilities. So just reevaluating those sort of things. And I know that each ward gets an allocated amount. I was at a city council meeting. They got $9,000 this year in each ward. Ward 1 had been sitting, or Ward 2, excuse me, had been sitting on $15,000 for the last couple of years. So I would really like to not sit on that money, possibly do some beautification with those sort of funds, to pay attention to detail with those kind of funds, and just seeing where all of the other eggs land, I guess, in different baskets. I'd really have to get more into that area, I guess, or look at it more in depth to be able to answer that question fully.
We have about 7 or 8 minutes. what are your priorities for the next sixth penny ballot? It looks like that vote's going to take place next May. If you could create a priority list right now, what would those projects look like?
Geez, maybe Belvoir Ranch, spray parks, infrastructure, maybe infrastructure number one on top of those two. Sorry. Yeah, the roads, God, the roads. And I guess that's all I can think of right now.
But infrastructure, the condition of roads,
Yeah.
your number one priority.
Absolutely.
Can you talk to us about the proposed anti-discrimination ordinance? Do you think that's something that the city council should pass, and would you support it as a council member?
I would support it as a council member, absolutely. I know the problem has been, or the problem that has arisen from that is that the city isn't equipped to deal with those specific anti-discrimination ordinances. Like, they just don't have the means to deal with it legally or whatever, but I would absolutely support that. I think non-discrimination is really important in general. And speaking of happiness and health of our community, that doesn't just mean our straight community, it means all of us, so.
Landfill expansion looks like it's going to happen at the Happy Jack landfill. Is that something that you support, and what about the increase in trash fees that have been passed the last couple of years to help pay for that?
Well, there's a few more years of increases, 8% increases is to their plan. I do know that much. I support it. I just wonder, I mean, they still don't have enough money for that Happy Jack landfill. I was at that city council meeting where she was running down, you know, and they just don't have the answers for where that money is or how it's being saved. They were in real hurt and shape before they got that plan. So I do support it. I just want to know that the Board of Public Utilities is being held accountable for that 8% increase every year, and that the money, I know they were in the negative for a really long time and they're still working on getting out of the negative. The money is being used responsibly and appropriately, and the expansion app does happen. And after that 5-year 8% increase, that maybe it stops because that's 40% over 5 years. That's a big increase. So
there's some general fund money and some fifth penny sales tax money that goes to the United Way for distribution to a series of nonprofits in the community. Are you aware of that process?
I'm not.
What do you think of doing something like that?
I think it's great. I definitely support the United Way, and nonprofits in general. I mean, they're great causes, and if they use the money responsibly and it's helping our community, why not?
Do you have anything else?
I'm done. Thanks.
We've gone through our questions. Callie, I just wonder if there's anything that you'd like to share with us that we haven't asked you about today.
You know, I guess I should touch on the roads because I know our community is just like, pulling their hair out over the roads. My business is on 19th Street, and they did close it down from Warner Central. I think that's the one that's closest. I always get confused. All the way to Maury. They closed it down for about 6 months. They totally deconstructed it, rebuilt it, and repaved it with asphalt. And I have a friend that works for WYDOT. And while it was a pretty hairy process as a business owner, I didn't feel like the city gave me a very great opportunity to, or it wasn't very easy to go through the process. I reached out to get a sign to point to my business. And while that wasn't an easy process, it was closed down for almost 6 months. And it was pretty intense as a business owner. But I will have to say that the street is beautiful. And my friend in WYDOT that works at WYDOT says that using concrete for roads is just a bad idea because concrete spalls, that's the technical term for pothole, no matter what grade of concrete you use, if it's not tamped down appropriately, if it's not mixed just right, concrete naturally potholes. So I would really like the city, or like to see the city, put forward a plan to resurface the roads with asphalt, and especially in our freeze and thaw season here in Wyoming. I mean, it's just really intense. And what we use on the roads to de-ice them, that might be causing some pothole issues. But I would really like to see the city put a plan in place to reconstruct the roads and repave them with asphalt. And another thing, you see the city workers out there filling potholes, but they're filling potholes in concrete. They're putting asphalt in concrete potholes, and that's just a temporary fix. And we're wasting a ton of money filling potholes with asphalt on a concrete surface, and that is a waste of money. It's a waste of money, and it would cost a lot less in the long run to resurface the roads with asphalt. And basically how you have to really fix concrete, is take out the entire slab and re-pour it. So it's a little more expensive. Asphalt might not be as tough, but if you fill an asphalt road with asphalt, then it sticks to itself. It's not going to deteriorate in a couple of years. You're not going to keep having these problems. So that's what I've got to say about that.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.